Hey everyone, I'm so glad you're here. I'm Angie and I'm getting ready for my first 5K race at the end of the month. I'm super excited, but I'm also kind of nervous. You see, 5K means 5 kilometers, which is a little over 3 miles. That is a long way to run. And I know that if I want to be successful in this race, I need a training plan. I need to show some commitment. Commitment is making a plan and putting it into practice. First, I've got to stretch my muscles. And then I think I'll start by running to the end of the block and then maybe to the end of the street. I'll run a little bit more each day. I'll eat right, I'll go to bed on time, and that way I can be rested and ready. All of these things are part of my training plan. If you want to do anything important, you need commitment. You need a plan. The Apostle Paul actually talked about running a race in a letter that he wrote to the church in Corinth. Check out today's story while I run around the block. I'll see you in a minute.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. Now, for an amazing story inspired by the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 9, verses 24 through 25.
Did you know that some writers of the Bible talk sports? Well, not every sport, but at least one that you are familiar with. Yep, running. Running has been around ever since God created people. In fact, the Apostle Paul uses running as an example in one of his letters to the church in Corinth.
In a race, all the runners run, but only one gets the prize. You know that, don't you? So run in a way that will get you the prize.
Now, Paul is talking about more here than just running, but first you have to understand what it takes to run a long race. Let's say you want to run a marathon. That's 26.2 miles. There's no way you can just hop up off the sofa where you've been playing video games for months and run that far. So, you need a plan. When I was preparing for my first marathon, I found this plan. I started training more than 4 months ahead of the race, and I started with just a few miles at a time. Once you've got a plan, well, then you gotta move. That means short runs, long runs, and cross-training to work other muscles and prevent injury. Next up, you've got to fuel. Plenty of water, of course. Plus, you need healthy carbs for your long runs like bananas. And maybe some spaghetti and meatballs. What's the last part of your training? Get ready for it. Rest. If you don't rest and let your body recover, you'll get burnt out or injured. The last few days before a marathon, you don't even run at all. Yeah, running a long race is no joke. But Paul says what we're doing right now, you and me, is even more important.
All who take part in the games train hard. They do it to get a crown that will not last. But we do it to get a crown that will last forever. So I do not run like someone who doesn't run toward the finish line. I do not fight like a boxer who hits nothing but air.
Paul packs a lot of weight into just a few sentences. Whether you planned it or not, we are all running a race right now. Okay, so that's a little crazy. Clearly, I'm standing here talking to you, and you aren't outside running laps either. But Paul is talking about a way of life, a journey. We're all focused on the finish line, life forever with Jesus, but in the meantime, every step along the way is important as we live out what matters most. Jesus reminded his followers,
Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Love him with all your mind. Love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Yep, Love God, love others. That's what matters on this journey together. But just like you can't skip from jogging one lap around the school gym to running a 26.2-mile race, you're gonna need some practice.
Your Love God, Love Others marathon needs a training plan. Now, none of us have it all figured out, but here are 4 important things to start with. In fact, you may already be doing some of them. First point, hear.
God is the master teller of this amazing story. He's the author of this whole race, so the most important thing is learning to hear from God. That means digging into God's Word and hearing the stories and wisdom from people who walked with Him. And you can also hear from God from people around you in your life who know and follow Him.
Now, here's the second step in training for our Love God, Love Others marathon. Pray.
Okay, when you hear pray, you might think,
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Truth is, you don't need fancy words to pray. You can talk to God anytime, anywhere, about anything, just like talking to your mom or your best friend.
Now let's take a look at point 3 in our training plan. Talk.
Hello out there! Tell other people what God has been up to in your life, what's changing, how you're learning to love others better.
And here's the final point in your Love God, Love Others training plan. Live.
Live for God. Let His love fill up every part of your life, at home, at school, at church, even when your dad makes you stop reading your book to play a game with your little sister. Hear, pray, talk, live. That's how you practice loving God and loving others. As Paul wrote,
So run in a way that will get you the prize. We do it to get a crown that will last forever.
and when you do, you will live out Paul's wisdom to the Corinthians and win the race.
Wow, it looks like we have a lot to learn about how to run a good race and how to follow Jesus. Paul said, we do it to get a crown that will last forever. We can continue to grow stronger in our relationship with God because our relationship with Him will last forever. We can keep training and practicing what matters most as we learn to follow Him through our entire lives. And remember, God will always be with us each step of the way. He is always there to help us as we practice loving Him and loving others. So here's the one thing to remember today. Keep practicing what matters most. We have a great training plan that will help us grow stronger in our relationship with God. We can hear God's words through His Bible. We can pray and talk to God. We can talk to our friends and others about Jesus. And each day we can live out what we believe by loving God and loving others. Maybe you're already doing some of these things. Maybe some of them are new for you. But just remember, we're all practicing our training plan together as we learn to live God's way every day. I'll see you next week for some more training.